We are a blended family.
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 We're a blended family.
We are a blended family.
We are a blended family.
We are a blended family.
And we are a blended family. Hi, we're Doctors Larry and Carol Snap. We're glad to have you with us today, this afternoon here in Phoenix, Arizona.
Psalm 139:14, I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. How many get that? We're talking about you. If you don't believe it, then you need to read that more. Okay?
Well, that's why we're here, to hear why we're here.
Yeah. Well, somebody's got to mention it, right?
Okay.
I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. So, we are all unique. God is amazingly creative. No two people are exactly alike. Even identical twins are not truly identical. I have some cousins. I have had two aunts that were twins. They were born at the same time, but they didn't look anything alike. Right? So they were fraternal, right? Two separate eggs. But one of them had a son, and then she had twins that were identical. And for years, I never could tell them apart because I didn't see them that often. Down the road, my cousin, the son, got married. He had twins. And they were identical, right? So it kind of ran in that particular limb of the family tree. So, but the point here is we're all different. No two people are exactly alike, and the thing we need to understand is everybody is created in God's image. Okay? Adam was created in God's image. And everybody since then is too. All right? Even the lost. Now, where we go a little wrong, because we live in a fallen world and sin is everywhere, we, especially as Christians, tend to look down on the lost as messed up, not so good. And, what's really sad is even in the church, all the different Christians that are in there, even us Christians tend to judge each other. Are you a good enough Christian? So there are issues like that, and we're going to try to address some of that today. And we had some of our other leaders talk about this at the premarital event yesterday about whose normal is normal, and the point that they brought out was our life history creates our normal. How you were raised, your experiences, the good and the bad, create what seems to be normal to you. If you lived in a good Christian home, a godly home, had a good father in the home, you're going to have a certain kind of normal. That's going to seem normal to you. If you were in a single parent home, probably with a mom, no dad, that's going to be a whole different kind of normal. And usually not as good, right? So everything that's happened to you up until today has created your normal. You behave based on your beliefs. Your belief system, whatever that is, your normal, in other words, dictates how you behave. Because this normal is what you believe. That's what you've been taught. That's what you've learned over the years. And so that's your belief system, is all this input that's been that you have processed over all these years. So what happens then when you meet somebody else? And now you try to have a relationship with this person. They got a whole different kind of normal than you. How do you put that together? I like to ask the question. Okay, I don't have fruit in here. Maybe I could get 2 different kinds of donuts.
Strawberries and grapes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got a strawberry in one hand and a grape in another. My question to you is, which one is right?
I like strawberries better, so it'll be strawberries.
Okay.
I like grapes.
Okay.
I say both of them.
Yeah, I like fruit salad. Okay. No, but the key word here is I like.
Yeah.
I like. Yes.
Well, I and like. It's a preference.
Right.
It's the wrong question. Okay. They're just different. They're both fruit. God made them. Right? Different is not about right and wrong. That's a pride issue. It's just different. When you go back up here and you look at, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Oh, and by the way, so are you. Oh, okay, well, maybe I need to respect you a little more. Maybe I need to love you a little more because you're made in God's image just like me.
Well, you're each other's gift from God is what you have to remember. And
Right.
sometimes with my Jesus glasses, you really have to put those
Yeah, they're over
glasses
there.
on.
Yeah.
Because you really don't want to feel that.
Well, back like 15 years ago when our lives were all messed up and we were getting counseling and everything, they said, marriage is spiritual warfare. Your spouse is not your enemy. The devil is.
Yeah.
And then they taught us how to pray together because we never did any of that.
Yeah.
And one of the things that was part of that new experience, what we were doing is developing a different normal.
Right.
Right? Because the normal that we had didn't work out. So now we were on the path of creating a new normal, which was more God-like, more Christ-like.
I like the examples that Tom and Mandy shared yesterday. His family was all about disciplining. And you did something wrong right away, you were disciplined. You got the punishment, whack, or something taken away, whatever. It was right then and there. Hers, on the other hand, they would tell her, well, get your pillow and come on in the living room. We'll sit down and we'll talk about it, and you can tell us what you think the punishment ought to be. And so, being a blended family, when the first issue came up, and Tom says it was her son, he didn't come home at the time he was supposed to come home. He says, I wanted to hang him. Right away, I wanted to hang him. And she's, no, that's not how we do it. We do it this way. Not in my home. We don't. Well, they didn't do what we had suggested if they'd have taken premarital. And she said at that time we didn't have it. Sit down beforehand. Talk about what the rules are going to be, what the punishments are going to be, or consequences. But so you both will be in agreement on how that would happen. But it was so cool the way they were describing it. And at the same time, she said that she had always been extra aggressive, being a woman, in charge of all the money, in charge of this and that, and he was very agreeable to, well, whatever you want to do is fine. Until they started having some difficulty with the money. So they went to a counselor, and the counselor said, give me all your credit cards, give me your checks, and all that. Of course, she's the one that had all that, so she handed it, and the counselor handed it to Tom. And she said, what are you doing with my money? He said, you have had that long enough. It's not your responsibility. He's the head of the household. He needs to be responsible for that. So that was another big adjustment. That's not, and she knows that was not the godly way to do it, that she be in charge, but they gave some really, and they're from Pure Heart Church, they gave some really great examples yesterday.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
They were basically doing this kind of stuff yesterday. It was really good. Okay, so your whole life history creates your normal. Different is not about right versus wrong. It's different.
Right.
That's just different. That's all. No big deal. It's just different. Marriage gives you many, many, many opportunities to learn the differences of your spouse. That's really kind of what it's all about. You have all these years, hopefully, to be together and find out all these cool things. Yes.
Like what you said, it is a pride issue, because if you look at your spouse as, I love art and I love going to museums. If you look at your spouse as this beautiful painting and you get to discover him or her, you're not going to sit there and critique it. I mean, you can, don't get me wrong, there are art
Oh, sure. There are art critics, yes.
It's discovery. You're discovering all the wonderful things that are being done in this artwork. And that's what your spouse, that's how you should look at your spouse.
That's good.
If our pride issue, we want to critique it.
Nitpick.
Yeah. See, now that's really good, because that shows the difference between what Satan is trying to do
Right.
versus what God wants. Right? Just before I get to that, difference is, it's like I said, it's an opportunity to exercise grace and mercy.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's not about right and wrong, it's just you're different than me. So being a more positive attitude, more Holy Spirit oriented kind of thinking, it's an opportunity to get more knowledge and wisdom about your spouse. That's what marriage is about. Learning all those little things that you only notice when you look at the painting more and more times, right? On the other hand, the enemy wants you to fear what is different. Yeah, it's not like me, so it's bad. That's the flesh. That's the enemy trying to mess with your head. Sarah, you had something?
I was just thinking when she was talking about paintings. I was thinking of the potter's wheel and how God says He's the
potter.
Right.
And we're the clay. And we're just kind of on that wheel spinning, like, okay, you're molding me and making me. And I was just thinking how society today, mainly media and films and TV shows, there's a lot of women making statements on the shows or whatever in the dialogue that they're creating the man. Like, I whipped him into shape, or I made him who he is, or I get him dressed, or I don't know. It's like they think they're creating this image or something for themselves, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's not what it is at all. And that's just a lie. It's the opposite, to celebrate each other.
Right. But one of the things
I meant saying that, like I created her.
Right.
I don't know.
Oh, there are some men that controlling that would. Yeah.
Well,
I made you.
Yeah. One of the things we brought up yesterday was that for the wives, they end up with the husband that they build.
Right.
The proverb is, the wise woman builds her house, the foolish one tears it down with her own hands.
And words.
And words. And so the problem that we have, I think, is we take certain scriptures and then we do a whole ministry off of just like one or two scriptures. Right? The whole point is put the whole picture in context. Right? So you got to read the whole thing. The old is a preview of what's in the new, right? There's all kind of things that point to what's in the new.
Right.
It's just not like manifested in the Old Testament is more about the physical stuff. The New Testament is all about the spiritual stuff. But all that physical stuff pointed to the spiritual stuff. Marriage is all about taking the time to learn all these little nooks and crannies that your spouse has, and what are the gifts that God has given them, and all those kind of things. But it's, you know, because it's a covenant and you understand what a covenant is, you know, you're in it for the long haul. And these little differences give you the opportunity to exercise grace and mercy, you know, and patience and all those things that love is. And then you don't do the things that love is not, right? But it's also a chance to learn some stuff. And as you exercise grace and mercy, now you get stronger at exercising grace and mercy. You're getting smarter. You make fewer mistakes. You make better choices because now you're smarter, right? You understand your spouse better. So now you're making better choices, right? But, you know, like Sarah was saying, you know, the enemy wants us to fear that which is different. You're not like me. So just because I don't know you, but you're different, I'm not going to like you.
Well, it's like the carrot, cutting the carrot.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good example. There was this couple, the guy was a chef, and he was trying to help his wife cut carrots for something, right? You know, you know how chefs do that, like that? And she was struggling. And she would chop, you know, chop, chop. And he was getting frustrated. Right. Because it was taking her forever to cut some carrots. And he was like, no, you got to do it this way. See? Well, the bottom line was, he's right-handed, she's left-handed. He was it was like he was trying to force her to do it right-handed, which is not her strong hand, right? So, again, that's one of those examples of different being right versus wrong, and not just different. So he totally missed that point that if she was using the other hand, maybe she could do that. But he couldn't do it that way. So since he couldn't do it that way, I was wrong, you know, in his eyes. So little things like that. And kind of on that line, sometimes, you know, because of our history creating our normal, you know, there's one little story I like. It's, you know, you got grandma, mom, and daughter getting ready to do like Easter dinner, and you know, a lot of people do a ham for Easter. And so mom is getting everything ready, and she cuts the end of the ham off, put it in the thing, and the daughter is saying, "Hey, Mom, how come you cut the end of the ham off before you put it in the pan and then in the oven?" And she said, "Well, I don't know, ask Grandma." So the daughter asked, "Grandma, why do you do that?" And she, "Well, so it would fit in the pan." She had a reason for it. Mom just did it because her mom did it, without understanding. You know, it's like you have to cut the end of the ham off before you cook it. That was what she got out of that. But Grandma is like, "Well, it was too big to fit, so I had to cut some off so it would fit in the pan." Yeah.
When Wayne and I got married, we had 5 children between us. This was 40 years ago. He had 3 girls, and I had 2 boys. And his youngest daughter moved in immediately with us after we got married, and then her older sister later. But we had Sherry and the boys, and well, they were all over one weekend. And I was lenient. I didn't realize this, but I was letting the boys get away with things that I wouldn't let the girls get away with. And our youngest daughter said, "Mom, you better figure out why you're doing this, but you're really hard on us and you're not hard on your boys." And there were differences. I'm getting to differences. And so I went back to my bedroom and I started praying, and I said, "I really need an answer. These are 5 kids, you know, they need an answer. What am I doing?" And God said, "Well, you have issues in these areas that are hard to overcome, and the boys have the same issues. That's the family thing." The girls had issues like their dad does, my husband, that you don't have. So you don't see, they should be able to get it right, because you and the boys don't have that issue. So get it right, and let's change, and let's do it right here. Whereas I was much more lenient with the boys, but there's so many differences. And boy, she taught me a big lesson in that. And really saved us.
Yeah.
Her wisdom, she was 7 or 8, you know.
Well,
Amazing.
yeah, I've seen videos like a 3-year-old talking to her dad about being nice to her mom.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's
way you
sometimes the
talk.
kids have way more smarts than
Yeah.
the adults do. Okay, so marriage is God putting two very different people together. And the way God usually does it is whatever you're lacking, He brings somebody along that has that. So it's about complementing, not completing.
I was going to say, I'm not completing like Jerry
Like
Maguire.
Jerry Maguire, right?
Complete me.
You complete me. God completes us.
Yeah.
Our spouse complements us. And that's why God made Eve, to complement Adam, not complete him. Because he was whole to begin with, right? He didn't need to be more complete. He needed to be complemented in more than one way, I guess. He needed a helper who would complement him.
Yes.
Like, man, you're awesome.
That I was going to say that is true.
You know?
To be complimented. You need to be their cheerleaders.
Yeah. And that was the way God set it up. That's not me, that's God, okay?
It's being prideful, but it isn't. It's building, like you said, a woman builds.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of her purpose.
I know that.
God created us all with a purpose. And, you know, ladies, that's part of your purpose when you have a husband. Part of your purpose is to build him up. We're supposed to, and his job is to edify you as well, okay? It's not just up, it's both ways. This
So I
way.
tell him he's going to look handsome with a haircut. You think he'll go for it?
Maybe.
Jeremy, no.
That usually doesn't work for me either, right? She keeps telling me I need a haircut. I don't want to go. Yeah, when Carol starts talking about a haircut, I was like, yeah, maybe next week.
Yeah, he goes deaf. He doesn't like it.
Were you talking to me? No.
He just breaks out the clippers from the bathroom and just shaves it off. That'll work, whatever. That works.
All right.
I went to a barber one time and he says, I'll give you a better deal than your barber. I said, really? And he said, how much does he charge? I said, it's free. He said, yeah, I do it myself.
The last time he went to get his haircut, he sat in the chair for 45 minutes inspecting his head. I'm like, you're only paying him $20, you're good. Like, they're going to double charge you if you don't get out of the chair.
Yeah, start charging you rent. Okay, so do you see the difference in how Satan works and God works when it comes to how He created us? God likes to show off. No two people are alike. God is trying to show us how creative He is. You know, just the earth, the planet, is so diverse in the landscape. I mean, just here in Arizona even. You know, down here we got the desert, we got palm trees, we got cactus, you get a few thousand feet up. Now it's pine trees, grass, you know, the animals are different. I mean, it's amazing when you just stop and look at all the different things, right? But Satan, because he twists everything around, wants us to fear things that are different than us. And I think that's one of the reasons that so often Jesus was saying, fear not. You know, one of those really big scriptures is, be anxious for nothing, but pray about everything. It's, you know, God is for you. Satan wants to kill you. And if you get the whole spiritual warfare thing, you understand, okay, there's an enemy that wants to kill me, but there's a God that wants to do more things for me. Is that how you see things? God is on my side. He's trying to help me out. Satan is trying to tear me down. So who am I going to listen to? Psst, right? Satan wants you to fear the different. God wants you to see his awesome creativity. Like I said, everyone is created in his image. Everybody. And it's because of this, because of what Satan wants us to fear, it's really hard for us, without putting our Jesus glasses on, it's hard for us to see other people as being created in his image. They're different. So that nature kind of wants, not that it wants to, we don't want to fear that which is different, but Satan does. So he kind of blinds us to the fact that, you're created in God's image just like I am. So why should I fear you? Right? But because of all the sin and differences and everything else, people hate each other. But that's not what God wants, obviously.
It goes back to what you said, that marriage is a spiritual warfare. Because we have all these things that are coming, these forces coming against that marriage that you have to really rely on God to overcome.
Sure.
Right. And in that vein, especially with other family members, right? Parents, brothers and sisters, right? They know better, right? Especially if you're one of the younger ones in the family. The older ones are like trying to always tell you what to do. So, and that's one of the reasons we came up with the pyramid, right? Is because if you're married, that marriage better be right up there, right after God. Because there's going to be all these influences that really aren't going to be helping you much. And then, everybody's got their own issues. It's typical, the crazy Uncle Harry out there that, he's family, but you want to keep him on the outside of the pen. He's kind of the wolf in sheep's clothing kind of thing. We all have one of those somewhere, at least one. But if we have our Jesus glasses on and we're looking at the world in the way God created it, now those things that are different are, oh, cool, look at that. It's all in here. How are you looking at things? What's your attitude like? Is it a Christ-like attitude? Is it a fleshly, worldly attitude? Is it full of fear? Is it full of confidence? Because God's got you. And even if you died, you'd be in heaven. So, yeehaw! Right? You went in. A guy that I used to work for, that was kind of his thing was always, I'm too blessed to be stressed.
Oh, that's good.
And he ended up getting cancer. 9 months later, he was gone. But the whole time, he said, either God's going to heal me or I end up in heaven. I win.
Yeah. Either I get to be here with my family some more, or I get to be in heaven with all my heroes, my mentors, because several from the church had died and gone there. It was incredible. And Dan was just diagnosed having cancer in 5 different places. He says, don't worry. I'm good. I'm good. And at the funeral they had the little round pins that you could put on. Larry still has one in the car underneath our handicap sign. Too blessed to be stressed. That man, when the real estate market fell apart, he had to reinvent what he was doing because houses were not selling. And he worked 18 to 20 hours a day doing the auction things, I believe, for a while, and then they started going up on the auction prices, so then he did more fix and flips and stuff, and he had over 500 houses that he either rented or had with was a fix and flip or immediate sale. He had so much going on, and we used to counsel out of his office. It was just down the street. And we've been in there sometimes, and he's, well, so-and-so has a meeting in the conference room, and you can't use the accounting room because somebody else is having a meeting there, and you can't use this room and that, but you can use my office. Now, you know good and well he was working on something big, and he says, if it saves a marriage, I'm out of here. I'll go somewhere else. That man was just phenomenal.
And a lot of times we'd say, oh, but we'd have a counseling session. Okay, we have one booked for like next week. He's like, well, hopefully we'll still be here.
Yeah, when he was going into foreclosure.
Because he was like that close to losing the building and everything, but we never missed an appointment.
And we told him, when you go in that courtroom, you don't go in there alone. God's angels are going to be all around you. And he called us that day when he got out of the courtroom, and he said, even my attorney said, I don't know what happened. He says, I ended up with the building, and the guy that owns the building even let me have it cheaper than what I've been renting it for the last 5 years. He says, we don't know what happened. I know what happened. Those angels were in that courtroom. Amen. But
Yeah, that was
all right.
That was good.
An awesome man.
All right, so everything we talked about so far today is just know that God has created you. You are created in His image. He wants you to see everything else as being created in His image. And don't be afraid of it. Right? Okay, so now we're moving on a little bit to just general communication, because communication can be very difficult when you're afraid of what's different.
I wanted to add something to that, to not be fearful.
Right.
The scripture says that perfect love casts out all fear.
Right.
So if you have that perfect love in you, it will cast out that fear.
Yeah, fear is kind of a selfish thing, because your emotions are being driven by what you're thinking about you. Right? So, yeah, that perfect love, you're not even thinking about yourself. It's all about somebody else, right?
But a lot of times in marriage, it's not that perfect love. I mean, there's been distrust or miscommunication big time, and we've been offended by things. And so that part of the scriptures we forget. But we're trying to get it back. We're trying to be Christ-like. And that is the hard part. That's why we do fear. And we know we're not supposed to fear. And you try to, put those Jesus glasses on. But that's the difficulty. But I think when we were going through our getting everything back on track, especially getting it back on God's way, the thing that hit me the most was there are two kinds of marriages in this world. One made in heaven, one made in hell. What are you trying to build? Oh, I zipped my mouth for a while. And that's kind of what we really have to come to that conclusion. Do I want this marriage? If I want this marriage, I have to be quiet, listen, so I can learn and get rid of the disappointment and really learn.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I think Larry was talking about it earlier, because all of a sudden he starts speaking. And for years he used to say, well, whatever you want to do, we'll just do it. And then he starts speaking. I thought, well, who gave you a mouth? Well, when did you start speaking up and telling me what you want to do? I've done all that for 23 years. Where'd you come from? Yeah.
I was just waiting for you to change.
I know.
Guess it took too long. Deanna.
Talking about fear totally knocks out faith.
Right.
Because two things can't live in the same space, according to physics, am I right?
Correct.
I'm not a real good driver.
Two things can't occupy the same space.
That's what it is. So if you're in fear, that's what you're in.
There's no room for faith.
Sure. There's nothing else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. Okay.
Yeah, faith and fear are opposites, right? Okay, so, and Carol sort of touched on it a little bit. The rest of this is more about just how to communicate with a spouse. because we've talked all about all these differences and everything, kind of how God expects us to deal with it. But when it comes to communication, because of the differences, and if we're not looking at it in the right frame of mind with the right attitude, it's like a lot of people never listen to their spouse. It's like, okay, I see your lips moving, but are you done yet? I'm going to tell you what I think, but I'm not hearing you. So communication at that point is people are talking over each other. Obviously, nobody's listening.
Or yelling
Well,
at each other.
the volume is variable.
Christian living, Christian living. Christian Living Radio. It's a life.
Thank you for listening to Blended Families. This is Jonathan with Christian Living Radio. Stay tuned for part 2 of Celebrate Your Differences, right here on www.christianlivingradio.com.
Christian Living Radio, spreading the good news of Jesus Christ 24/7. Our goal is to bring you a life-changing word through music and diverse programming, like the one you're listening to now. Pastor Kenyatta Goins is the visionary of Christian Living Radio, and he's dedicated to the idea that Christians should even have a more prominent presence in the marketplaces. Maybe you need prayer for yourself and or your family, maybe for a friend. We'd be privileged to stand in the gap for you. If you're listening to this broadcast, click on the Contact Us tab and send us your prayer request. We'd also like to hear from you if you have something on your mind, or just give us some feedback. We support many ministries, so maybe you'd like to make a one-time or a monthly recurring donation. We believe that when you sow into these ministries, you'll indeed be blessed. And of course, if you sow into this show in particular, we believe that it's a blessing for you, so please consider sponsoring us. There's a special area under the Donate tab where you can send your monetary gift, or call 520-812-6363. That's 520-812-6363 to receive more information about sponsorship. Thank you.